Jones prayer.
We are missing.
This time we will call our November meeting of the County Commission to order. This time I'd like to ask if you would please silence your cell phones. And to start this evening, I'd like to ask Commissioner Ricky Jones to do our invocation and Commissioner Dwight Jones to do our Pledge of Allegiance.
Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, and we thank you for the blessings that you have given us, and we thank you for the opportunity to serve the citizens of Williamson County, and may we do so tonight appropriately. Also, this is the month of November, and during this month, we appreciate all our veterans, and thank you for their service, and thank you for their family and the family sacrifice during their service, and we ask that you be with all our veterans. We also ask that you be with all those that serve our county, those that serve as police officers and firemen, and we ask that you be with them also. We ask that you be with us throughout the rest of this meeting. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we will have roll call. If you're here, please press your present button. Where am I? Is everybody marked? I can't read that one up there.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Call the roll, please.
21 present, 3 absent. Commissioner Mason, Commissioner Lathers, and Commissioner Hudson absent.
Okay. Commissioner Mason and Lathers had messaged me that they were not feeling well, and Commissioner Hudson messaged me that he is out of town on vacation. So next we have approval of the minutes. Do we load that? We're going to load. Okay. We have the motion by Brian Bethard, the second by Dwight Jones. Are there any comments, additions, or corrections? Seeing none, assume you're ready to vote. If you approve the minutes, press your yes button. Opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, please.
21 yes, 0 no.
Minutes are approved. Next, we have citizens' communication. We have one person that is signed up. It was Andrew and Mary Ann Bird. If you would come to the front, please state your name and your address or your city. We have a 3-minute time limit.
Good. Well, I like brief time limits. First of all, this is the most important thing. This is my wife, Mary Ann Bird, or, I'm fortunate enough to be her husband. So,
Welcome.
but she's a Menifee who has been here in Williamson County for the last 65 years and on a farm out on Holly Tree Gap Road. And Holly Tree Gap Road is historic. It was the first road built between Nashville and Franklin in 1799. They actually compelled everybody who lived north of the Harpeth River and south of those ridges to come in and help them build the road. So, and that road runs right through our property, which unfortunately is being condemned by the Mill Crofton Utility District, where Holly Tree Gap Road is, where Hood's forces went down, part of the battle at Holly Tree Gap Road. They went in there and they have basically decided they want to take off the top half of the hill there. And they want to put in a concrete base and a 40-foot concrete cliff. and put in two 2 million-gallon water tanks on our property, on our site. They called us, they sent me a letter Thursday before 4th of July. July 28th, they condemned it. You know, so they're moving to eminent domain. You talk about taking somebody's property that never saw it coming. You're just talking about us. And, you know, we need some relief. You know, at some point, there's going to be a new commissioner appointed to the Mill-Crofton Utility Board. There's 3 guys out there. One of them just passed away. The 2 other are kind of like me. They're getting a little older. But, you know, we need a new fresh blood in there to get people to respect property rights. Either that, or maybe if y'all think about it, you might give them the opportunity to come sit in these chairs and answer a few questions from you guys about exactly what they were thinking about. But those are the only 2 ways that I can think of right now to slow them down. And I think it's all about this federal money. I think the federal money's coming. Reconstruction, the Refinance Act, Biden administration put through, there's $1.3 billion getting ready to be spent. And I think that money is getting ready, it's going to have to be approved by the Williamson County Commission to the tune of about $37 million. And I think this program they're doing with us is probably an $8 million program. It's going to save them, they save $50,000 a year. That's a nickel on $8. That's a nickel on $8. It's a 160-year payback. You know. Anyway, I think I've said enough. I hope that y'all will help me and help us, because we're getting railroaded. And we need to stop it. But thank you very much.
Thank you. That's all of our citizens' communications. Next, we have communications and messages. Have 2 things to bring up. One, we have one late filed resolution, late filed resolution 11-21-23. We would like to add that to the agenda tonight to avoid having to have a special called meeting. Are there any objections to hearing it? It is on the agenda. It was added. It was administrative oversight that it didn't get filed by the deadline, so it was in the plan. So are there any objections? All right, seeing none. Next, we would like to have the request to move 11-21-8 to move it up after our 3 proclamations. Are there any objections to moving it up before committee reports and after the proclamations? It's the resolution naming the 2nd floor of the historic courtroom. That's the one we are speaking of. Okay, seeing no objections, we will move that up. Next, we have our proclamations, and I'm going to step down front for this first one. Y'all will bear with me. Noah's for Little League, y'all step up. Line up across here. Do we have the official proclamation? Yeah, just line up, face them. So we're trying to get. Okay. All right, fellas. The microphone is this way, so I'm going to have my back to you for a few minutes. Williamson County Government Proclamation. Whereas the players on organized sports team reamp many benefits, including developing physical skills, a sense of teamwork and fair play, and lifetime friendships. And whereas the Little League Baseball World Series was first held in 1947 and is held each August in South Williamsport, Pennsylvania, and whereas in the summer months leading up to the Little League World Series, Little Leagues around the world select an all-star team made up of players from its league hoping to advance to the Little League World Series. And Whereas the Nolensville Little League got off to a roaring start in the region tournament with a 23-0 win over Alabama in the opener before falling in the elimination bracket. And whereas the team won 3 straight elimination games, including a 4-2 revenge victory over Georgia, and climbed all the way back to take the regional championship with a 10-3 win over Florida. And whereas the team members include, and I hope I get all these names right, Kason Boer, Nolan Brown, Mateo Bruzzi, William Drucy, Tanner Jackson, Ryan Newell, Ryan Pearson, Jack Rhodes, William Satinoff, Gabe Shepler, Rocco Stark, Drew Wagner, and Hutch Weaver, and are coached by Randy Huth, Chris Mikado, and Ivan Satinoff. And whereas the 2021 marked the 9th time a team from Tennessee has played in the Little League World Series and the first appearance for Nolensville Little League. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Williamson County Board of County Commissioners, meeting in its regular session on the 8th day of November 2021, does hereby collectively congratulate the team and the coaches and the parents for representing Williamson County in the Little League World Series and for level of excellence exemplified by these outstanding individuals. Signed by Commissioners Tommy Little and Beth Lothers. Now, probably want some pictures, so just hang on. I don't know how many of you got a chance, but I really enjoyed watching these guys. Being able to see them play on ESPN and watching the game was a treat to watch them represent Williamson County. Okay. Now then. Again, here, Nolensville Little League. Did I need to present? Okay.
We're not doing the next one, they're not. But wait, you are next. You gotta be nice. He's got another.
Mayor Rogers.
Well, thank
Mayor
you.
Anderson.
I couldn't help, but I've got to make this comment. Any team from Nolensville, Tennessee that beats Alabama like that, I'm all for. That'll cost me at the vote second. All right, Jason, would you come up? We want to do a proclamation joining Williamson County Schools and the Franklin Special School District and proclaiming November as Be Nice Month in Williamson County. I had to get that in before I read this.
I'm with you on the Alabama.
Yeah, I know you are. Williamson County has a proud tradition of Southern hospitality and graciousness, and holding as a belief, among others, that every individual is valued and respected, and that great schools are central to strong communities. And whereas Williamson County values the culture of kindness that was born out of the Be Nice movement created by Fairview High School students and staff during the 2013-14 school year, and later adopted by all Williamson County schools and the Franklin Special School Districts, their students. And the Be Nice movement produced a change in behavior and promoted positivity in our schools, the great Williamson County community and beyond. Williamson County can serve to be an example of what other counties can aspire to be through individuals simply being nice and doing good and giving where there is a need. Our county, its citizens, business, and public service continue their efforts of being kind and encouraging, have joined together to promote a campaign of niceness that celebrates and strengthens the spirit of Williamson County and all that live and work and play here. Be it therefore by my signature in the seal that November is Be Nice Month in Williamson County. Jason?
Thank you.
I'm gonna get one with this and then
Be nice.
I like the squat better, it was nicer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Commission. You know, back in 2013, this Be Nice thought arose out of our principal's experience and the airport. And you may notice that there's been reports in the airline industry of folks kind of forgetting that nationally. And one thing we talked about when Dr. Snowden and I presented to the Chamber of Commerce, Williamson, Inc., that it's time to bring it back. And so I thank you for your support. And we have a great community. We have a nice community. We have a kind community. And there's just value, especially at this time of Thanksgiving, to remind folks that it is appropriate always to be nice. Thank you.
One other announcement I want to make before we move on to reports of county offices. We also have with us tonight Boy Scout Troop number 444 from Franklin. Y'all stand up. They're here to see government in action for their merit badge, and we're glad to have them here with us with their scout leader, Ben Tudor. So welcome. All right. The Woodland Middle School cross-country team is going to be postponed, so that proclamation will be done at a later time. At this time, we have reports of county offices. Mayor Rogers Anderson. Oh, whoops, I'm sorry. Nope, yep. I'm getting myself confused. Okay. Since we have moved the resolution up, are you ready for it?
It's ready.
Okay, all right. Resolution 11-21-8. Resolution naming the second floor historic courtroom within the Williamson County Historic Courthouse as the Justice Cornelia A. Connie Clark Courtroom. We have the motion by Commissioner Bethard, the second by Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Landrum. Yeah, I think there were 18 sponsors on this resolution. So.
All 24 wanted to be here and sign, so I wanted to make that clear. Tonight, we have family and friends with us, and we're going to read the resolution, but thanks to Julian Bibb and Joe Ball for all their contribution in this. And I'm going to read into the record, Tommy, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
And I'd also like to share with the public so they can understand the many contributions made by this fine lady. So I'll read it as follows. Resolution naming second floor historic courtroom within the Williamson County Historic Courtroom as the Justice Cornelia A. Connie Clark Courtroom. Whereas Justice Connie A. Cornelia A. Connie Clark served the state of Tennessee with honor and distinction for over 32 years, first as Circuit Court Judge for the 21st Judicial District of Williamson, Hickman, Lewis, and Perry counties, then as Administrative Courts for the state of Tennessee, and then as Justice on the Tennessee Supreme Court. And whereas Justice Clark was the first woman to serve as Circuit Court Judge for the 21st Judicial District, and whereas Justice Clark was the second woman in the history of the state of Tennessee to be Chief Justice on the Tennessee Supreme Court. And whereas Justice Clark was born and lived her entire life in Franklin, Tennessee, Williamson County. She has practiced law prior to being appointed to serve as Circuit Court Judge, and whereas she served Williamson County, Tennessee community in many ways, including service to numerous nonprofit organizations and service organizations as well as to her church. Whereas Justice Clark has been recognized and received high honors in her life's work from many organizations, including the inaugural Liberty Bell Award by the Williamson County Bar Association, the YMCA Academy of Women Achievement, the Drewota Award, the Martha Craig Dowdery Award, the Janice M. Holder Award, and the Pioneer Award. And whereas Justice Clark was recognized for the determination to provide access to justice for all, especially those able to least afford it. Whereas Justice Clark had a widely known reputation for honesty, integrity, impartiality, fairness during her years in law practice and while serving as judge of Tennessee Supreme Court Justice. And whereas Justice Clark was a role model to girls and women as well as to boys and men in Williamson County, Tennessee, as well as across the great state of Tennessee and as well as the nation. Whereas all citizens of Williamson County benefited from the service, professionalism, leadership, and generous qualities of devotion to the legal profession, the judiciary, to the rule of law, and the community exhibited by Justice Cornelia A. Connie Clark, now therefore it be resolved that the Board of County Commissioners, meeting in their regular session the 8th day of November 2021, does hereby name the second floor historic courtroom within the Williamson County Historic Courthouse as the Justice Cornelia A. Connie Clark Courtroom.
Law
Thank you,
Enforcement.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Law Enforcement Public Safety Committee was 5-4-0 against. The Property Committee was 5-4-0 against. The Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Or is there any discussion? Commissioner Dwight Jones. No? Okay, I'm sorry.
It was Judy, not me.
Here's Judy.
Okay, Commissioner.
I just want to say what an honor this is to be able to do this. I worked some with Judge Clark, and she was a brilliant woman, and she achieved so much of what she did by nothing but pure hard work. And I admire her so much, and I'm just so proud that we can do this.
Push your cards to speak. Thank you. Are there any other discussion? All right. Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, please.
21 yes, 0 no.
The resolution passes. At this time, I'd like to ask if the members of the family that are here, if they would stand up, and if any of them would like to say a few words, we'd be glad to hear from them. Family and friends, yes. We appreciate you being here.
Okay, my name is Joe Ball. I'm a friend of the Clark family, and Connie's sister, Kathy's here, her nephew, Matt, her sister-in-law, Lulu, and that's Jay Bird, isn't it? And Jay, who's her one of her nephews, and then Brad Perry, who's also a nephew. And I'm not going to believe this. I gave Kathy a copy of the Tennessee Bar Journal's excellent article on Connie this last month. But I will tell you this. She represented the Williamson County School Board in a notoriously long and arduous case She represented the city of Franklin. She was city attorney for quite a while, circuit judge, as you've heard, and her allegiances have always been with Williamson County. And I don't think many people know this. She was born in the same block as the courthouse. She died on the same street, and she is buried on the same street in Franklin. So she, in honoring her, you have done a magnificent act, because not only was she a leader, but she has experienced all parts of life in Williamson County. She loved Williamson County. She loved the people in it, and they loved her. They returned her to office time and time again, and her grandfather actually worked for the city of Franklin, and on the other side, her grandfather owned the building where Starbucks is now, the white building. So they are deeply rooted family, and David, I certainly appreciate your helping on this. Julian and I do, and we appreciate you people on the county commission honoring such a worthy person who has sprung from Williamson County and reached the highest court in the state.
I'll just kind of echo Joe's words. My name is Brad Perry, and I'm Connie's nephew, and she was very dear to me. And she, as Joe said, loved Williamson County, loved Franklin, but more than that, loved the people. She had the amazing ability to connect with all kinds of people. As you said, she's a brilliant woman with, the highest intellect, but could connect with people like me, much lower, but all kinds of people. And I think that's what made her life beautiful. And, she loved us very well as her family. And so I appreciate you guys moving so quickly. I would think it's pretty rare to move so quickly to honor someone like that, and I think it's certainly a testimony to her life, but a testimony to your action as a commission. And so our family is really blessed and honored that you would do this for our aunt. Thank you.
We do have the middle school proclamation will be done at this time, so.
We're going to do it or not?
We are going to do it. I stand corrected. So who's supposed to be, who's here? The coach?
Damon.
Yeah, come on up.
So the proclamation I'm about to
The
read,
coach is coming up behind you.
He's a parent.
Parent. Okay. He's the
Come on.
he's the representative, so.
come on up here. The 7th Tennessee Middle School Athletic Association state champions for Class A and AA boys and girls cross-country competition was held October the 2nd, 2021 in Clarksville. This was the first year that Williamson County schools secured eligibility to run in the sectionals and state meets, and approximately 2,200 athletes, coaches, and spectators in attendance. Williamson County's middle schools were well represented with athletes from Brentwood, Grassland, Mill Creek, Page, Sunset, and Woodland Middle School. In the girls' 2-mile cross-country run, Class AA, Williamson County school athletes represented 8 of the top 20 runners, 14 of the top 20 runners in the boys' 2-mile cross-country run. Brentwood Middle School boys cross-country team won the overall championship, with Woodland Middle School team securing second with only a 4-point deficit. The Brentwood School girls cross-country team won the overall championship, and the Brentwood Middle School cross-country girls team included a list of these ladies' names. So it'd be therefore, I won't read them all into you, unless you want to read them all. But with the signature that I have done, put the seal on this, labeling November the 8th, we collectively graduate the team and their coaches, and we say thank you very much for your participation here in our county and the way you represented us. Thank you very much.
Mayors, Commissioners, Damon Heiniger. I'm a proud parent of two twins at Woodland Middle, Robert and Mildred. And so Robert was on the Woodland team that competed in state. So as the mayor just said, first time Williamson County Middle School cross-country teams competed at the state level. First time ever. And lo and behold, Brentwood won the whole dang thing. Woodland was close. I'm biased. Woodland was close at 4 points behind. But as you heard, 14 of the top 20 runners on the boys' side were from Williamson County, and 4 of the 5 top runners on the girls' side were from Williamson County. So it was heck of a day up there, October 2nd up in Clarksville. And I think all the other teams that have historically gone to this meet, they're like, who the heck are all these teams from Williamson County? It was pretty dang cool to see. So thank you for this recognition. You may know if you have kids, so my son Robert's actually at Spring Center in a wrestling meet. This is the last big push for wrestling, so there's 4 tournaments this week. So I'm sorry we couldn't have kids here tonight. They're all down there wrestling. So, but thank you for this recognition. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I also want to say this is one of our corporate sponsors here in our county. You all may not recognize Sid Corvett. They used to have a different name, and we thank you for having your company get involved in all the school projects we have throughout Williamson County. They're located in Brentwood. Thank you very much.
Now, moving on to reports of county offices.
Mr. Chairman, I've got 3 things I want to bring up tonight. First, I'd like to bring up Nancy Zion, who is retiring. And you don't often get an opportunity like this to say thank you to someone. Come on. Many of you know Nancy. You see at our many meetings. She announced several months back that she was going to retire this month. And I could go on and on about what Nancy has done, being the director of the solid waste and our landfill, the convenience centers, all throughout Williamson County. She's been a real role model for so many other ladies and for many of us male species, of the way that she has handled herself, conducted herself, and run our solid waste department. It will be a long time before we're able to really fully appreciate all the hard work that she's done, all the innovation that she has been able to create, and best of all, that she is well liked throughout the ranks and across this state. So Nancy, thank you for a job well done. Enjoy your retirement, but don't be a stranger. So as all of you know, I have a policy: before you can retire, you have to find your replacement. And one of the things that Nancy did was bring several names. We ran an advertisement in the paper. We interviewed all of the candidates, and I'd asked Mac Nolan to come up. Mac has been a solid waste director in Rutherford County, and it does my heart great when I can steal somebody from somebody else. And Mac, we welcome you to our team. Mac, would you like to say a few words? Might as well get your face known to these men and women.
I just want to thank the citizens and Mayor Anderson for the opportunity to be here and all the things that we can try to do together. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the second thing, I'll ask Nina to come forward and give you a snapshot of the county financial positions that we've got, and then after that, I'll call upon Mike Madison to kind of give us an update on the growth plan that we're doing throughout the county. Nina?
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. Don't have many reports for you tonight. The way that the meeting fell on the calendar for this month, we just were not closed out. We did have one report for you, the Cool Springs Conference Center. We did share in a profit of $31,516 for the month of September. At your desk tonight, you should have a report on debt obligation. This is the CT 0253 report. Anytime debt is issued, this report is presented to you. This is for the $14 million tax anticipation note for the schools. It will be repaid by June 30. We got a 0.54% with First Bank. Also at your desk, we did sell bonds that you all approved, I guess, last month. We sold those on the 2nd. We did retain our AAA rating. The GO bond was a little over $55 million, and we got a 1.82%. The rural debt bond was $25.2 million with 1.80%. So we remained under 2% on those. And that's all the reports for you this evening. If you have any questions.
Are there any questions? Thank you.
As Mike is coming up, give you a snapshot of what is going on. Several years ago, this commission went through a very laborious process of whereby we were looking at our modeling of the urban growth boundaries that were established in 1999 and voted into law around the year 2000. That had a 20-year window on it that simply put was that cities and counties were required by law to sit down and anticipate where you're going to grow for the next 20 years. That 20 years has certainly rolled on by, and out of that, many things have changed from the legislators up on the Hill through annexation. Last week, and it's so appropriate that Mike is going to give you a snapshot of how that's going, and we've got all the city involved and all of the leadership involved. But last week, Joe Horn's department provides me a monthly basis of where we are on building permits by month, only in the unincorporated area. The month of November we broke another record. I think I've said that 3 times this year. Let me put it a different way. Through the first 10 months of this year, in building permits, in the unincorporated part of Williamson County only, not the cities, the municipalities, through the first 10 months of this year, we're already ahead of what we did in the 12 months last year. And oh, by the way, you can say that all the way back to 1988. So we put in more building permits in the unincorporated area in 10 months over any other 12-month period since we've been keeping records. So it's appropriate what staff is trying to do with all of our community. And I appreciate Mike and Christy and Joe. I appreciate the city. All of them are having public meetings. We're trying to get this word out of the changes we're attempting to get codified through each of our cities. It's a long process. It'll be in the spring and summer. But it's a process we have to go through to protect the identity of what we have in our community and protect the growth as we continue to go on. Mike?
Okay, thank you, Jamie, just now, and thank you, Mayor Anderson. Good evening, Commissioners. So as Mayor Anderson said, we have been for some time working with the 6 different municipalities within Williamson County on regional growth management planning efforts. So essentially what that means is that the county and each of those cities have been identifying areas that are appropriate for growth in the future and where growth is not appropriate in the future. So I sent you some information via a memo a few months ago about this process. That work is ongoing, is progressing, and I appreciate the opportunity to update you this evening. So real quick, taking you back to last year when the county adopted a brand new comprehensive land use plan. And of course, the comp plan is the chief policy document that the county has for growth and development issues. And that comp plan contains a whole host of recommendations and strategies for dealing with the challenges that we face. But if you could boil it down to just a couple overarching key recommendations, these would be the 2. So first, the idea of reducing the allowable residential density in the rural areas of the county from 1 unit per acre to 1 unit per 5 acres for those areas that weren't already zoned that way. And then secondly, for the county to collaborate with the cities on growth management planning efforts. So the first one, you all implemented that one a year ago this month, November of 2020, where a large property of the county was rezoned. And the comprehensive plan demonstrated the importance of that, demonstrated how this sort of strategy of preserving rural character by focusing growth in and around the cities would be beneficial, not just from a quality of life standpoint and a community character standpoint, but from a transportation, traffic, and perhaps most importantly, a fiscal standpoint. So there are a lot of reasons for doing that. So Mayor Anderson mentioned the building permit numbers a few minutes ago, which are as strong as ever, and in fact stronger than ever. I'll point out though that just for your information, that those building permits are almost exclusively taking place in subdivisions that were approved prior to last November and prior to the recommendations of this comp plan. So the first part of this was implemented a year ago. The second one is what we've been working with the cities. Essentially, as I said before, identifying areas for future growth that can be served with timely and adequate infrastructure. So the work that I just mentioned is really kind of informal at this point, but it has the potential to result in a change to the overall Williamson County growth plan, which is what Mayor Anderson mentioned a few minutes ago. Which is different than the comp plan, of course. The comp plan deals just with the unincorporated county. The growth plan is a state-mandated plan that establishes the urban growth boundaries, which I think you're familiar with. Those are the areas outside the cities where the cities have identified that they intend to grow into and that will someday be part of those cities. And also establishes the rural areas, which are just what you think of them as being, and planned growth areas, which are areas in the unincorporated county outside of urban growth boundaries where a higher level of development is intended compared to the surrounding rural areas. So this is the current growth plan. This was adopted in 2001. The different shades, the different colors represent the 6 different municipalities. I'm going to see if I can get the laser pointer on here. Okay, so Franklin, Brentwood, Nolensville, Thompson Station, Spring Hill, and Fairview. The lighter shades in the middle represent the city limits as they were in 2001. The darker shades surrounding those are the current urban growth boundaries. So the city limits have changed since then. The darker colors that are urban growth boundaries have not changed since 2001. I'll also point out that outside of those areas, you know, most of this white area is considered rural areas. However, it's probably a little bit difficult to read on the map, but this area here was identified in 2001 as a planned growth area. That's the grassland area. There was also a planned growth area for a pretty large area out in the Triune region. So during this informal stage, we're working with an advisory group that is sort of having an oversight role and one that is sort of directing the process. That advisory group consists of representation from all of the municipalities, as well as some other key stakeholder groups like our chamber, like our schools, and so forth. There's also a planners group that has been established, which is the planning professionals from each of those jurisdictions. That group is kind of, you know, doing the lion's share of the work in this effort. We're also working with some technical advisors as needed, people like our highway folks and utility providers and so forth. And then we're also having a facilitator. Many of you know Greg Dale, who helped us with the comprehensive plan, and you all funded this effort, and he's done a good job of facilitating this effort. When we first started working with the advisory group, we felt like it was appropriate to, oh, I'm sorry, got ahead of myself. I won't go through the list of names here, but I'll leave it on the screen for just a minute so you can see, you know, who specifically this group is comprised of. Okay, so when we first started working with the group, we felt like it would be helpful to establish a set of guiding principles, basically, so that everybody is kind of singing on the same sheet of music. And I won't go through these either, but I will highlight a few of those. The first bullet, you know, is kind of speaks for itself. You know, this is a collaborative, coordinated effort with each of the jurisdictions within Williamson County. The next two, I think, are also important. We're looking at a 20-year planning horizon, so we're not looking at establishing boundaries forever. It's for a finite period of time, and we're actually asking them to not only develop a 20-year idea of growth, but maybe a 5 and a 10, so smaller increments as well. And then the third one's real important too, because it's critical that these areas be identified based on population projections, but also based on where the municipalities can provide services and things like public sewer. And then I'll skip down to the last one, which is intergovernmental agreements. We've been talking mostly about geography and boundaries, and those are important, and those will be refined. But we feel like that in order for the overall system to work most effectively, we can't just draw lines on a map. We have to do some other things, develop some other tools to help the system work better. There was recently a symposium some of you attended, and it was called Beyond Boundaries, designed to get us thinking about how else we can help things to work the best. And maybe there are a series of interlocal agreements that can kind of further the project. Okay, so the county's job in this really is not to identify growth boundaries, but really just to identify and confirm or change our rural areas and our planned growth areas. So just to orient you again, the gray represents the cities, that blue shade represents the growth boundaries as they currently stand, and the cities are kind of reevaluating those. And then the green areas and the yellow areas, those are the rural areas and the planned growth areas as we're proposing them to be. So we feel real strongly that our comprehensive plan that was adopted last year tells us where our growth areas should be. And so this map here really mirrors the recommendations of that comprehensive plan. So everything is green. In green is identified as a rural area here. The yellow areas are planned growth areas, and I'll kind of real briefly touch on those individually. But you can see based on that earlier map that we have significantly scaled back the amount of planned growth area in the unincorporated county outside of urban growth boundaries. And we've kind of limited those to those areas where the county has adopted a special area plan. Sequentially, that was College Grove, then it was Leapers Fork, then it was Grassland, and most recently the Triune area. So those are appropriate for planned growth areas. And then you may recall that the comprehensive plan recommended that 2 hamlets, Arrington and Rudderville, be converted from hamlets to villages after a special area plan process takes place. And so we've identified those hamlet areas as PGAs also. I will note that we've had a lot of information on our website for a while and gotten public feedback. We initially had the Arrington and Rudderville hamlet a bit larger than the existing hamlet, thinking that you know, let's go ahead and identify a study area that could then, you know, kind of grow into the village. But based on some feedback from the public and based on revisiting it, that's probably premature. So right now it's just the geography of those hamlets. So that's what we're proposing at this point as our planned growth areas and rural areas. Again, it mirrors identically what the comprehensive plan calls for. Real quickly, next steps, we're going to continue to seek public comment on our part of it, on the county's part of it. That will be presented to the advisory group in December, along with the city presentations on what they're thinking their growth areas may be. And then we'll start working with the cities on some of those additional tools and identifying potential interlocal agreements that might be useful. And then if a decision is made, and I think it probably will be, to formally amend the Williamson County Growth Plan, that's a separate and statutorily prescribed process that would take place, and that would include steps such as officially establishing what's called a coordinating committee. There would be public hearings that would be required to be held by that coordinating committee and by each legislative body. Then approval of the revised growth plan by each legislative body, and then finally it will be taken to the state for their ratification of that. So I appreciate the opportunity to update you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Commissioner Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mike, thank you for being here tonight in that presentation. I just have one question. As part of this process, are we going to get any state laws that might come down that might make the urban growth boundaries a little more meaningful? Instead, I mean, I know you said we'd have interlocal agreements, but how binding legally are those? And if they're not binding legally, do you think we might have some state law come down that would make them binding legally?
Well, and I think that's a real good question, Commissioner Lawrence, and we've talked about that. You know, we can't obviously dictate what the state does with their annexation law. Having said that, we are hopeful that by the county and all the municipalities coming together on a plan that, you know, maybe there would be some legislative changes that could potentially take place. We can, or we should at least lobby for those changes to take place.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Director of Schools, Jason Golden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We actually don't have anything on your voting agenda tonight. And I just wanted to briefly mention a couple of things. Veterans Day is this Thursday. Our schools do have a number of programs for veterans, and I want to make sure that we mention that. And of course, there's a Veterans Parade, and so those of us who know the community know that that's a very, very important and well-attended event, and we're going to make sure we're a part of that as well. The mayor mentioned growth. We currently have 42,095 students in Williamson County schools. This is the time of year where we tend to be, a little flat. Typically, about 2/3 of our growth occurs during the summertime, and about 1/3 over the course of the year. Traditionally, January in that area is the time during the school year where we have a bit of growth, largely due to moves that kind of thing. But we, of course, experience that growth that the mayor describes. I mentioned that we don't have anything on your agenda this month, but we do anticipate with our board having a voting meeting next Monday, a week from today, that we will have a number of items on for you for next month, including some capital projects where we are seeing the continued increase in pricing that our 5-year capital plan didn't anticipate related to COVID. Our 5-year capital plan is a November item for our school board, and they'll be looking at that 5-year capital plan at our Thursday work session and at our voting meeting a week from today. We do anticipate that some of the numbers are going to grow a little bit based on current market trends. The good thing is that it's 5 years, and those items do tend to change as progress changes. For the schools, I must mention that with what you've been presented, we are very interested in where the growth occurs. We build typically where the growth occurs. And so these things may have a significant impact on where we place schools over the next 5 years as well. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'm certainly open to any questions that you all may have.
Are there any questions? Commissioner Nasons.
Just a quick question, Jason. With the state of COVID cases in the county, do you believe that you may be in a position to recommend the elimination of the mask mandate anytime soon?
Number one, Commissioner, we are very encouraged by the numbers. We actually post it twice a week on our website. We sent the agenda to our board today, and our COVID mitigation strategies, including masks, are on the agenda for discussion in just a few days.
Thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Story.
Along the lines of the growth, I've noticed a number of the schools are a little flat, if not a low, especially on the elementary school areas. How do you see growth at the school level? Because as it grows and there's need in other areas, what are we doing to ensure that the schools that we do have? Because are we now at 48, 49? Facilities or
we have a total of 49 on-campus schools. Some of those are joint facilities, we actually have 3 middle school elementary complexes, but we do have 49 on-campus schools.
Yes, I think just as we need to keep an eye on ensuring that the facilities we do have remain occupied versus, again, growing outward. So it's just something I'd like to keep an eye on.
Thank you for that. Zoning, of course, is a big issue, and we will from time to time talk about our processes for filling the schools. Our number one is give students as much as we can choice to attend a school out of zone. That does not have a huge impact in Williamson County schools. We usually have about 2,000 or so students that are attending out of zone based on capacity and choice. Second, we squeeze in where we can. Third, we rezone. Fourth, we build. So that's our process and a priority.
Commissioner Tunnicliffe.
Yeah, Jason, I know that you are also serving on one of the committees for the state on the new funding discussion going
Yes,
on, as I am. Who else on the board? Is Jennifer Priya serving on that as well?
Thank you for that. To give everyone a little bit of background, the state has initiated a discussion about the BEP formula, the Basic Education Program statewide. There is an oversight committee with a number of state officials. I know Jack Johnson, as an example, is on that oversight committee. The State Department of Education has established 18 subcommittees. I am on the subcommittee that is to consider the impact of any change on municipal, suburban, and high-growth school districts. And Jenna Priya is on a subcommittee related to special education. So each subcommittee, and Commissioner, I'm trying to remember which subcommittee you're on.
Fiscal responsibility.
Fiscal responsibility, which of course makes sense from a commission standpoint. So I will tell you the timetable that's been explained to us related to that. The state is going through the process over the next few months to review. It is very likely they may have some proposed legislation in this legislative session coming up this spring. The projection we have heard from the commissioner is, in the event there is a change, they project that there will be a structure with a different funding model starting in fall of 2023. They're at the stage of getting public input related to that. I don't know where we will ultimately head with that. Our first scheduled meeting as a subcommittee is, if I'm not mistaken, next week. We'll get some insight into that. We're at that stage of learning what that means for us.
Yeah, we had our first meeting today, which ended up being a meet and greet more than anything else.
Okay.
But I will encourage anyone who's here or listening to please go to the Department of Education website and ask questions, give ideas. It's going to take a lot of public input to try and keep Williamson County schools at least what we have now, and hopefully increase funding a little bit, so we can continue to deliver what we deliver to our students annually.
Thank you. And I will point out, and I spoke to this publicly when I spoke to Williamson Inc., 64% of our total budget comes from county government. The funding we get from the state is extremely important. It's about a third of our total budget, but our community is funding our schools. Every dollar we get from the state is very important, because if we don't get it, then it puts that burden on us. That is a significant process statewide.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Williamson Medical Center.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, for having us tonight. I'm going to have a brief report, and then Michael will have a brief report after me. At least today is a positive report. Over the past 20 months, as I always give you the numbers, we've treated 4,240 COVID-positive patients. Of those, 1,555 were admitted to the hospital. We resulted about 30,000 COVID lab tests over that same period of time. I'm excited to report that it appears that we're past our last surge. We've been in the single digits for hospital inpatients since October 21st, so we're at 19 days and counting. We're at 0 COVID patients in the ICU from October 21st to November 5th. We currently have a total of 4 COVID patients in the hospital, 2 on the medical unit and 2 in the ICU. We have no COVID patients on a ventilator, so really positive news. We've been able to relieve some of the pent-up surgical demand that was created when we were limiting inpatient elective surgeries due to our capacity issues in September. And so very positive for the hospital, very positive for the community. I'm really excited about what we're seeing today. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Michael Genesee for the September financial report.
Thank you, Bill. Good evening, everybody. I also have a positive report. As you see in the financial packets, September is very strong for us on both volumes and earnings. Our admissions for the month of September were the second highest we've had in the last 13 months. We did have the highest number of deliveries in September that we've had in the last 13 months. And our ADC also was the highest that we've had in 13 months. So our ADC was at 140, a strong number for us. The only key stat that we had that was not higher than budget was surgeries, and you know we've been saying this for a few months now. We've intentionally limited our inpatient surgeries because of the COVID volume that Phil was talking about, and just the the capacity issues that those created. In terms of earnings, our revenues were 10% over budget for the month, and we're also 5% over for the quarter, so we made up some good ground. And net income was strong for the quarter as well. From a balance sheet standpoint, cash remains strong at $93.4 million. That's 123 plus days of cash on hand, and our debt coverage ratio is 2.26, which is up from the prior month, 2.2. So I'm glad to answer any questions that you had of me.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, we thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other reports of county offices at this time? You said we didn't take that. Okay, all right. Moving on. Next, we have elections and appointments. First up is the Beer Board Northeast Section, 3-year term expiring 11 of 24, term expiring Charlie Fox III, nominations Charlie Fox III. We have a motion by Steve Smith, a second by Judy Herbert. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes. Opposed, your no. Uh-oh. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, please.
21 yes, 0 no.
Next is the county clerk term, fulfilling unexpired term expiring in 8 of 22. Resigned was Elaine Anderson. The nomination is Jeff Whidbey. I'm sorry. Do we have, let's see, the motion by Dwight Jones, the second by Brian Bethard. Are there any questions, any comments? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. Well, Commissioner Lawrence, I'm sorry, I missed you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is kind of a bittersweet vote tonight. I'm voting for Jeff tonight. I plan to support his nomination. Jeff's eminently qualified, I think, to take this job. But at the same time, we're very sad to see Miss Elaine stepping down, and it's going to be really hard to be here and not hear record the vote, Miss Anderson, in our future meetings. And I guess she's been here for 20 years, 21 years, something like that, in this role. But before that, a total of 54 years in the county registrar's office. So not registers, but the clerk's office. So I just want to thank Ms. Anderson tonight for a career, a stellar career with the county and everything that she has done and meant to that role in the county.
Any other comments? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, please.
21 yes, 0 no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I was gonna say. Yeah. All right. Jeff, if you want to come up and say a few words, I think Roger's going to swear you in. I think you've got a bunch of the staff here for support. And Miss Elaine, if you'd like to have any parting words, we'd be glad to hear from you too. Your family, come on up.
Come on up. I hope that's the only time that Deputy Elrod's walking my son down the hallway. When he's So, thank you, Commissioners, for your vote of confidence in my ability to run the county clerk's office and hopefully just make a smooth transition. Mrs. Anderson has definitely set a high standard for service to the citizens of Williamson County, and I intend to ensure that this standard is maintained in our office. I look forward to continue to work with the Commission in the future. I've always enjoyed my time working with you guys. I'd also like to thank my staff for their continued support and work. There's a lot of them here tonight, and that means an awful lot to me. Our office is truly a family, and nights like tonight totally demonstrate that. Also, thank you to my family for their encouragement and support. It's always comforting to know that I have such a strong support system. And last but not least, I'd like to personally thank Mrs. Anderson for the knowledge and guidance that you have provided for so many years. You're a perfect example of a public servant, and I look forward to providing the same level of public service in the county clerk's office in the years to come. I always like to say I will never be able to fill her shoes, but I know if I follow in her footsteps, she will definitely lead me in the right direction. So thank you all so much. I really appreciate it.
Are you wanting to speak? Okay.
It's a great honor to do it. Miss Anderson, I've enjoyed working with you. If you'll repeat after me to take the oath. I, Jeff Whitby.
I, Jeff Whitby,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will perform
that I will perform
with fidelity
with fidelity
the duties of the office
the duties of the
to
office
which I have been elected or appointed,
to which I've been elected or appointed,
and which I'm about to assume.
and which I'm about to assume.
I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
to support the Constitution
to support the Constitution
of Tennessee
of Tennessee
and the United States,
and the United States,
and to faithfully perform
and to faithfully perform
the duties of
the duties of
the county clerk,
Office of County Clerk
Williamson County.
of Williamson County.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir, very much.
Ms. Lane, do you have any parting words? Yeah. Yeah. Commissioner Chalfant.
I have some final words from Ms. Anderson, the famous, I'm going to call the question.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Next, we have the consent agenda. Excuse me. At this time, we'll entertain a motion for the consent agenda. That's not, okay, all right. We have the motion by Dana Osbrooks, the second by Commissioner Herbert. Are there any comments, any discussion on the consent agenda? Not, I assume you're ready to vote. All in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, please.
21 yes, 0 no.
Consent agenda is passed. Next, we have a public hearing. Excuse me. Public hearing regarding Resolution 11-21-1, a resolution to amend Article 11 and 23 of the Williamson County Zoding Ordinance regarding farm wineries. At this time, the public hearing is open. Anyone wish to speak, please step forward to the microphone. Please state your name and your city for the record, please.
Yes, sir. Kip Summers, Arrington, Tennessee. I'd just like to say thank you for considering this this change in the zoning laws. It was about 15 years ago that I came before the commission and we'd worked with the county in establishing a farm winery permit in the zoning so that Arrington Vineyards could start down the road of bringing people to the eastern side of Williamson County. And it's been a great 15 years, and we're looking for the next 15 years of our growth opportunity and So we just need a little bit more square footage, and that's why we come to you with this amendment tonight. So thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Going once, going twice. Public hearing is closed. We'll see if somebody. Resolution 11-21-1, a resolution to amend Articles 11 and 23 of the Williamson County zoning ordinance regarding farm wineries. The motion by Commissioner Bethard, the second by Commissioner Dwight Jones. The Regional Planning Commission was 7-4-0 against. And since Beth is not here, I'll ask Mike if he would give us an explanation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the zoning ordinance contains some specific standards for farm wineries. One of those standards is that there's a limitation currently of 25,000 square foot for floor area devoted to processing, bottling, tasting, sales, and storage and office use, regardless of the size of the property. So there's a minimum lot size of just 15 acres for farm wineries. And so you're limited to 25,000 square feet, whether you've got 15 acres or you've got 60 acres. In the case of Arrington Vineyards, they've got 60 acres, and they've requested some more, particularly with storage space that they feel like they need. So the way we responded to that was change the regulations to have a sliding scale so that the smaller the property, that's where you get the 25,000 remaining, up to 50,000 for 60 acres, and then there's a mid-range too that kind of divides that equally. So we're recommending approval of this. Planning Commission recommended approval of it as well.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no. Anyone wish to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Jeff.
21 yes, 0 no.
Thank you. Resolution passes. Next, we have a public hearing regarding Resolution 11-21-2. Resolution to amend the official zoning map originally adopted May 14, 2012, as it relates to amending the zoning district of approximately 580 acres located at 3021 Del Rio Pike. This time the hearing is open. If you wish to speak, please come up, state your name and city of residence.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Mary Brockman. I live at 1407 Old Hillsborough Road. And who knew I was going to be here on such a historic night? I'm just honored. It's amazing, just serendipitous. I'm here really to advocate and support this resolution before you on Del Rio for the downzoning. And I really feel like I represent so many people in this area as well. I've been a resident in this community for 25 years and 12 years as a county commissioner representing this District 9. It truly is, this change is truly representative of the very best vision for this historic property. And amazingly, it's so deserving, and it's going to be an anchor. It's going to be an anchor for this wonderful corridor that we all love. And you know I'm a land conservation, historic preservation nut, so I am just joyful at the opportunity to support this. One of the hallmarks of Williamson County is the scenic beauty forged by the Harpeth River and all its tributaries. And in this case, it's the West Harpeth. By preserving the rural character of this property, your action will positively impact the entire corridor where land conservation and historic values are still proudly prominent. This is a lasting legacy. It's going to create a gift for us now and in the future. And I might add, horses will love it. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Laura Turner, Dickinson Lane, Franklin. I, too, support the downzoning of these 580 acres on Del Rio, as requested by Harding Ventures, the property owners. This would allow the rural preservation 5-acre zoning to be applied to this significant scenic land. Located in the Tennessee Great Central Basin of fertile river valleys, wetlands, watersheds, forest, and rolling hills, the Harpeth River Valley contains rich collection of scenic, cultural, and historic resources. From its quaint roads lined with stone walls to its collection of Native American historic sites, the valley is a treasure that is likely to be buried under a landslide of residential developments, road construction projects, and environmental issues. That is a quote from Scenic America, a national conservation group, when they named the Harpeth River Valley as one of the top 10 most endangered scenic places in America in 2001. 20 years ago, citizens were standing up and speaking out to preserve this unique, treasured landscape. These 580 acres are part of the Harpeth River Valley, designated in the nomination we submitted to Scenic America, in the hope that tools would be adopted to protect and preserve it for future generations. Last year, the county adopted some of those tools in its comprehensive land use plan to protect our vanishing rural landscapes. I respectfully request this commission rezone this land from municipal growth area to rural preservation. I am grateful to the visionary owners of this land, and I am thankful to this commission for its support of rural landscapes and viewsheds in our beloved county.
My name is William Morgan. I live at 3110 Del Rio Pike. I live right across the street from this property. And I just want to say thank you to this county commission. Thank you to past commissioners who I have worked with, my wife and I have worked with. Thank you for these other fine women that you have heard from and are getting ready to hear from. It truly is an historic moment for this property. I've lived there since 1988. We moved the historic house on the Worthen Angus property on Columbia Pike that sat in the middle of the Battle of Franklin. We moved it to Del Rio Pike in this property. We are an historic area, and we have lived in the urban growth boundary for all these years. And not to know what the destiny of this property was going to be was truly something we have literally prayed about for so many years. We went through the time when Del Webb looked at buying this property, and when that moment we realized all the people that our destiny of this property, it was in the hands of people that none of us in the community voted for. It was the Franklin Board of Aldermen that held our future, and to go through that was a harrowing experience, but it was also a wonderful experience to see that it got completely voted down by people that we didn't even vote for. Tonight, you get to vote for something to help in this process. Thank you for your consideration. Thank you to all the people that have put in the hard work to save this wonderful area. We as landowners very much appreciate that and your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, good evening. I'm Dory Bowles. I'm the CEO of the Harpeth Conservancy. And our organization is 20 years old, and Mary Brockman, former county commissioner, was one of our founding board members. You may not know that one of our founding board members was a Dixon County commissioner who actually wrote Chapter 1101, who set up the establishment of the urban growth boundaries. So it's interesting, our organization's always had a lot of interest in how does growth shape protecting water quality and land. So one of our core program areas is actually rural land use and land use protection. And we've been working with Williamson County. Williamson County is the leader in this across the state. So when I work with the legislators, they're always like, what are you all talking about out there in Williamson County? Because they're either used to metro government or a very different dynamic. So we're learning a lot here and shaping what's happening across the state in Williamson County. And it's really important, and it's that the citizens have really helped to shape it. You all, as elected officials, have been listening. We've gotten advice from across the country, but it's our citizens here and our landowners who've also said, hey, we have an idea for how we want our growth to be, where we want our concentration, where we want our hospitals, and where we want our ag to be. And as an organization, we're still very interested in how we can maintain rural and agricultural land and production as well as where we want our dense growth. So obviously, our organization very much supports this downzoning. It's been led by the property owners. We also helped with a very large voluntary downzoning on Old Hillsborough Road that helped to reinvigorate the effort that you all went through to update the land use plan and do the downzoning. As a word of note, if you aren't aware, tomorrow night, the city of Franklin is continuing to consider removing this area from the urban growth boundary. It's been wonderful to see all the cities in the county work on where you all want the growth and where you want to shift it. So this particular area in the West Harpeth is an area that a lot of people envision staying more rural as part of the corridor out to the rural western part of the county. I'm trying to see if there's any other shout-outs. I want to shout out to Mike Madison and Rogers Anderson. Leadership really matters for these very complicated issues. And thank you very much for your time and attention. This is a wonderful thing to be able to vote for.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Hi, I'm Trevor Cross. I represent the group that is bringing this before you all tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm not sure if this public hearing is the time to do that or the next item on the agenda.
It'd be on the next.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Going once, going twice. Hearing's closed. Resolution 11-21-2. A resolution to amend the official zoning map originally adopted May 14, 2012, as it relates to amending the zoning district of approximately 580 acres located at 3021 Del Rio Pike. The motion by Commissioner Sturgeon, second by Brian Bethard. The Planning Commission, Regional Planning Commission was 7-4-0 against. Are there any explanation, please, Mike?
Okay, thank you again, Mr. Chairman. So this 580 acres on Del Rio Pike is currently zoned MGA 1, which allows a density of up to 1 unit per acre. This is in the City of Franklin's urban growth boundary currently. But the property owner approached us with their vision for the property, which is a very, very low density, very high-end residential development. And they felt like it was more appropriate to develop that way in the county than to pursue annexation with the city. And the city felt the same way. So the city has indicated to the property owner that they do not want to provide sewer, and they've indicated to us that they no longer see this as being in their growth boundary once this process that I spoke about earlier takes place. So essentially, the property owner has requested a voluntary downzoning of the property. Staff is supportive of this request. The Planning Commission voted unanimously to support it as well.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Jeff.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 11-21-3. Resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to enter into a grant agreement with the State of Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security and appropriating and amending the 2021-22 Sheriff's Department budget by $40,000, revenues to come from federal pass-through state grant funds. Commissioner Sturgeon, let me get the motion. No, push your button. All right. Okay. All right. The motion by Commissioner Webb, the second by Commissioner Herbert. I'm sorry. What did I say? I'm creating names here. Law Enforcement Public Safety Committee was 5-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Sturgeon.
Yeah, these are funds that are coming from a federal grant. They'll
Phone down just a little.
These are funds for a federal grant, from a federal grant through the state, and it's mostly for training in the Sheriff's Department.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no. Chaz, Commissioner Morton. There you go. All right, anyone wish to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, please.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 11-21-4, resolution appropriating and amending the 2021-22 Parks and Recreation budget by $39,076.19. The revenues to come from donations. The motion by Commissioner Smith, the second by Commissioner Guffey. Parks and Recreation Committee was 4-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. These are just donations/contributions from the youth groups that use the field. As you can see, the expenditures will go to officials, maintenance and repairs, and other supplies.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Jeff.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 11-21-5, resolution accepting a donation of $500 from Sid and Mary Sutherland, DAF Fund, on behalf of Williams County Animal Control, and appropriating and amending the 2021-22 Animal Control budget by $500, revenues to come from donations. The motion by Commissioner Smith, the second by Commissioner Bethard. Public Health Committee was 3-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please.
Donation from Mr. and Ms. Sutherland to Animal Control.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, please.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 11-21-6, resolution appropriating and amending the 2021-22 Parks and Recreation Department budget by $20,000, revenues to come from participant fees. The motion by Commissioner Smith, the second by Commissioner Sturgeon. Parks and Recreation Committee was 4-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please.
These are participant fees for the use of the Performing Arts Center and will go toward the expenses of operating the center.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, please.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 11-21-7, resolution authorizing the Williams County Mayor to sign an agreement with the State of Tennessee Administrative Office of the Courts on behalf of Williams County Juvenile Court and amending the 2021-22 Juvenile Court budget by $3,000, revenues to come from state grant funds. The motion by Commissioner Sturgeon, the second by Commissioner Tunnicliffe. Law Enforcement Public Safety Committee was 5-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Mr. Sturgeon.
Yeah, these are state grant funds used to assist providing supervised visitation and custody for child welfare cases.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, please.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Late filed resolution number 11-21-23. A resolution authorizing the issuance, sale, and payment of not to exceed $150 million of general obligation bonds of Williamson County, Tennessee, providing for the levy of taxes for the payment of the debt service on the bonds, and authorizing an interlocal agreement between the county and of Williamson Medical Center to provide for the payment of the bonds in Williamson Medical Center. The motion by Commissioner Webb, the second by Commissioner Herbert. The Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please.
Mr. Chair, this is for bonds to make improvements in addition to the hospital. I think all the commissioners have met with representatives from the hospital and have had their questions heard by them, and so we recommend approval.
Commissioner Lawrence.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to add an amendment to this resolution tonight. Can I give the explanation for the amendment, or do I need to read it first and then give the explanation?
You need to read it and get a second.
Read it and get a second, okay. All right. So what I'd like to do is add to Section 13, where it talks about the interlocal agreement that the mayor will negotiate with the hospital board, and just add this verbiage in there. The interlocal agreement shall include a commitment of the county and the hospital to discuss the economic feasibility of legal alternatives for the sharing of revenues of the hospital with the county, and report the results of these discussions back to the county commission by November 2025.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Commissioner Sturgeon, the second. Explanation, please.
Okay, I want to point out a few things that a lot of people don't know. The hospital gives the county a lot of services every year, and a lot of our residents don't know some of these things. So I'm just going to quickly give a brief overview of some of the things they do for the community. First of all, ambulance services are conducted by Williamson Medical Center, and we have 16 staffed ambulances that we run every day that the hospital oversees, and the cost of that is $9.3 million. Now, they get some money from private insurance and other things to pay for some of that, but it doesn't cover all of that, and actually the tab that's not picked up is probably somewhere around $3 to $4 million, and the hospital doesn't charge the county for that. So they're gifting that ambulance service to us, and last year we had almost 18,000 ambulance calls that they responded to, and so that's a gift from the hospital that the county benefits from, that keeps our taxes down. They also support our athletic trainers. If you go to an athletic game at Williamson County Schools, you see a trainer there working on one of the athletes. It's a Williamson Medical Center athletic trainer, and they provide that to our high schools, and the cost of that is approximately $600,000, a little over that every year. They also provide a lot of community support and education, and they gave away $2 million of charity care to people in our community who couldn't afford care last year. So those are some of the things that the hospital does for the community, and I want to thank Phil and Mike and anybody else here from the hospital tonight. I want to thank you guys for everything you're doing for us, and the extra things that you're going the extra mile, and the things that you're doing for the community like this. And there's a lot more things that they're doing, but those are some of the highlights. But I also want to recognize some of the things that the taxpayers have done for Williamson Medical Center since 1992. Taxpayers have allowed the hospital to borrow almost $120 million essentially on the taxpayers' credit card through our AAA bond rating. I guess the AAA has been AAA since 1992, Mayor. I don't know if it's been that long, but it's tax-free municipal bond rating of AAA, And that's why they're coming to us tonight to ask for the $150 million, because our bond rating allows them to get the funds at a lot lower cost than perhaps they could get it on their own. So in addition to that, we gave them $20 million in 2002. We're still paying on that bond. That was actually a gift to the hospital, so we're paying $1.5 million. A lot of people don't know that. The county taxpayers are actually paying that every year, and that bond will be paid off next year. But if you add that up, that's $140 million plus $150 million. That's almost $300 million that the taxpayers have either allowed the hospital to borrow or gifted to the hospital. And I don't know what the difference in the interest rate is. I know last time we talked about this, there was like a 4.25, I think, percent interest rate thrown out there as what the hospital could get. Right now, we don't know what the rate's going to be, but it's extremely low, like in the low 1% range. So if the differential was, let's say, 3%, that would add up to a lot of money on $150 million over 20 years. And in addition to the other benefits that the hospital is already gleaning from using our AAA bond rating. So the taxpayers have done a lot for the hospital. So I just want to recognize this has been a mutually beneficial relationship for both parties for many years. I think in the last 18 months, we've definitely recognized the benefits of having a high-quality hospital in our community. And I do want to commend you guys. I think you guys have done, and I know Mike, you and Phil weren't there for the whole 18 months of this COVID slog, but I hope you're right, Phil, that we're through the second surge and we're not going to have another one. But I think the hospital performed admirably and very professionally. Fortunately, we didn't have the problem some communities did where the hospital got totally overrun. I think we got close a few times, but we bent maybe a little bit, but we never broke. So I want to commend the hospital for that. But this resolution is basically just to say that in recognition of this mutually beneficial relationship, we've all seen the numbers that the hospital is projecting that they're going to be able to achieve if they get this money to be able to add the services to the hospital. And I believe they're going to get those numbers, and I actually think they're going to get more than those numbers. One of the things about Williamson County is, Williamson Medical Center, 90 to 95%, my understanding is, of the people who walk through the door at Williamson Medical have insurance. And that is a phenomenal demographic that almost no other hospital in America has the benefit of. And so I believe that the hospital is going to do very well with the plans that they have in place, and if they get this money. And so this amendment is simply to say, if that happens, and if they even exceed the numbers, which I think they probably will, that they expect to get, that if that happens, that we're going to sit down, the commissioners and the hospital board will sit down probably in 3 to 4 years, sometime around or before November of 2025. So we say 4 years from now. And we're just going to have a discussion about a revenue sharing arrangement that might include something like there's different ways to do that with nonprofits, like payment in lieu of taxes. And so if the hospital is doing very well, that there would be a way for the taxpayers to benefit from that as well, and continue to keep our the cost of the taxes down for the taxpayers of Williamson County. So that's basically what this amendment is saying. It's not binding anything on either party. It's not setting any numbers in stone. It's just basically saying we're going to sit down and have a discussion.
Commissioner Dwight Jones.
Thank you, Chairman. I've heard this several times, Chairman, in committees, and I'm hearing it tonight. I'm really confused why we're worried about what the hospital makes and how much money they give back to the taxpayers. They save us $12 million a year. That's saved on the taxpayers of Williamson County. I don't understand. They've never missed a payment. We build $100 million high schools. The hospital pays their way. We've got people that we furnish for that don't pay their way. That it's on the county taxpayer dollars to educate kids. I get it. I love it. I love our high schools. But I love our hospital too. And I'm sick of always hearing that we've got to make people in this county pay their way. The hospital always pays their way. They've never missed a payment, as far as I know. If somebody's going to tell me any different, I wish they would. I don't understand why we keep driving at the hospital as an issue in this county. It's not an issue. It's been an issue. I hope they make money. I hope they make more money than what you think, what they think, what I think. I think it's great. I don't know why we keep taking a dagger and sticking it in their heart. Be glad that we have a hospital in Williamson County that is as great as it is.
I'd like to speak
Commissioner
to the
Webb.
amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Lawrence makes some good points. I think it's the wrong time to have the discussion, Commissioner Lawrence. Mr. Chair, I think let's leave this bond agreement that's before us clean. Let's vote this thing for the $150 million for the hospital, up or down, and then come back with a resolution and go through the process, because there's a lot of items you discussed that I think need more discussion, Commissioner Lawrence. And in order to let the public know, then we ought to have it in the public and go through the various committee process. And, lots of numbers. We need to talk about numbers. So I would recommend that we vote against the amendment, but if you want to bring this back as a separate resolution, I'm glad to hear the comments at that point. But at this point, I'm saying I'm going to be against the amendment you're proposing. Thanks.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote on the amendment. I don't know that we need to read the amendment. It was lengthy. So does anyone have any questions as to what you're voting on in the amendment? Let me put it that way. Not then, whoops. Okay. If you're voting yes, you vote in favor of the amendment. If you vote no, you're opposing the amendment. Commissioner Lawrence, I don't have yours. I don't have your vote. Anyone wish to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, please.
3 yes, 18 no.
The amendment fails. Now we're back to the resolution as a whole, as presented. Is there any discussion on the resolution as presented? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Jeff.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 11-21-9. Resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to execute an agreement to purchase multiple lots located on Murfreesboro Road and Newcastle Road in Williamson County. The motion.
It's not working for some reason. Hold on. Anything you can do?
All right, go ahead. Commissioner Smith. I'm sorry, who was the? Commissioner Guffey, the second. Is there any discussion at this time? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Systems messed me up. So, explanation, please, Commissioner Smith.
This is a resolution to purchase 3 lots, 3 pieces of property on Murfreesboro Road at Newcastle Road. It encompasses part of the area involved in the Tennessee Renaissance Festival, which has been going on and been put on by the Freemans for about 30 years, I believe. This resolution itself just involves the money to purchase the lots. There is an agreement being worked on with the Freemans that that the Renaissance Festival would become part of the county Parks and Rec Department, and they would operate the festival going forward the first few years with the assistance of the Freemans, but they would essentially donate that business to the county for the use of the Parks and Rec Department, which that festival is pretty profitable, and makes the funding for the purchase of the lots pretty reasonable, and something that would be paid back in a matter of several years. This gives us additional parks and rec properties in that area. It provides us with a place to move the riding club that's located at the Triune intersection that was donated to the county several years ago by the club for the purpose of hosting the riding club. We are going to displace that activity by the construction of new EMS facilities on that property for the Triune area. This would allow us to move the riding club activities to this particular property and allow us to use this property for other purposes in addition to the Renaissance Festival. So what you're seeing here is something that's been worked on by the mayor and the Freemans and the Parks and Rec department for quite some time now, and Gordon is here. Obviously, we'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have about that, but or I will try and answer as well. But essentially, what we're buying here is 3 pieces of property, which for about $40,000 an acre, which is about what property in the area is going for of that nature. So,
Are there any
Thank you, Mr.
questions?
Chairman.
Commissioner Sturgeon.
Do we have a commitment or a clear intention to operate the festival once Williamson County owns it?
Yes.
Yeah, so, that's good. My daughters go to it every year. They'll be crushed if it's not there, so.
It's well attended. It's very popular. We get people from all over the country that come to work and on it and attend it. And as I said before, it's very profitable.
Oh, bring that up. Another question.
Go ahead, sorry.
Somebody just mentioned there might not be any beer sales if Williamson County owns it. Is that true?
I would defer to legal counsel on that.
Bobby, do you know, I'm not aware that we've addressed the issue. And of course, that's something that if there is an activity that is run, you all on occasion have permitted alcohol sales, or
So
at
we can
least the
make
serving.
We can make exceptions.
It would be within your purview to do that at some point in the future if it got to that. Right now, county policy would prohibit that without county commission approval.
We have made those exceptions on other occasions for county properties.
Yeah, for the ag park.
Mhm.
Yes. Are there any other questions?
Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair, do we need to amend this where we did in parks? Did we have?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, may I enter an amendment?
Yes, go ahead.
This is as amended to remove tax map 113, parcel 51.01.
We have an amendment. Is there a second?
Second.
Sorry. Commissioner Bethard, the second. Are there any questions on the amendment? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor of the amendment, press your yes button. Hang on. All right, can we voice vote it? All in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Should be 24, 1 against.
Yes, sir.
I mean,
20 in favor.
20 in favor and
Yeah.
1
Trying to
against.
say 24.
So the amendment passes. Now back to the resolution. Is there any discussion or questions on the resolution? Commissioner Williams.
Yeah, I'm just curious if we can get just a quick explanation, just from the administrative side of taking this on. Just, are we talking about any additional positions that are going to have to come on board to manage it? I mean, I don't need much detail, I just need a little bit.
Commissioners, first of all, I'd like to thank Commissioner Smith for a great explanation of the resolution. Yes, there will be a position that we will have to bring on board. However, we're not going to ask for any funding for that position. It is a position that we already have in the budget. It's a position that I have saved pending this committee, or this commission rather, approving this purchase. And this is a position, like I said, I haven't filled, that I've had available for about 6 months. And if this wasn't going to be filled in this capacity, then we would have put it back in programming. So yes, it is going to require a position, but it's not a position that we're going to ask you to fund new.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no. In which you change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, please.
19 yes, 2 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 11-21-10, to adopt a reapportionment redistricting plan for Williamson County, Tennessee. The motion by Commissioner Morton, the second by Commissioner Webb. The reapportionment committee voted 3 in favor, 2 against. Explanation, please.
Given by the attendance of almost all of you, I think you are aware that our committee has been meeting to reapportion our districts. We had a lot of input from all of our commissioners. I'd like to give a whole lot of, let's say thanks to the Boy Scouts. They'll be voting in these new districts in a few years. I want to commend Perry Parrott and his office. I spent a lot of time with Perry. I think most everybody here had an opportunity to. The level of detail that goes into these maps and the way that they are created, and you move one piece and how many pieces move. It was a complex problem to work through, but we had a great committee and ultimately got several of your signatures on this, so I hope we have succeeded. If not, then we'll be back here in December to come up with another one that hopefully we can. But I do think ultimately we've got a good map, and we are going to be able to serve the citizens of Williamson County by having better representation for them. Right now, the eastern side of our county is severely underrepresented, so we're going to get that fixed.
Are there any questions? Commissioner Sturgeon.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you, Chaz, for your leadership in the whole process. You were very fair and, equitable to all the people, not just the people on the committee, but every commissioner. So I don't think anybody else could have done as good of a job as you did. So thank you for being our leader.
Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no. Anyone wish to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, please.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 11-21-12. Resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson. Did I? I turned too many pages, excuse me. Resolution 11-21-11. Resolution declaring certain county-owned .40 caliber ammunition surplus to be disposed of in accordance with applicable law. The motion by Commissioner Sturgeon, the second by Commissioner Nations. Law Enforcement and Public Safety Committee was 5-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Property Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please.
Yeah, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. They have a lot of surplus ammunition that they need to dispose of, so it's being made surplus.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no. Commissioner Webb is out. Can you? Okay, all right. Anyone wish to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, please.
20 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 11-21-12. Resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County. The motion by Commissioner Herbert, the second by Commissioner Tunnicliffe. Law Enforcement and Public Safety was 5-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please.
This is an agreement with the... Can you hear me? Is mine working? Okay. This is an agreement with the Metropolitan Government of Nashville where they've received grant funds from the state of Tennessee that they will distribute it to some of the Middle Tennessee area, and it's for internet crimes against children. So these agencies can purchase equipment, training, and travel.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no. Anyone wish to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, please.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 11-21-13. Resolution declaring certain sheriff's office property and equipment surplus property and authorizing the sale of this property and equipment at auction. The motion by Commissioner Herbert, the second by Commissioner Dwight Jones. Law Enforcement Public Safety was 5-4-0 against. Property Committee was 5-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please.
This is a truck with the Sheriff's Department that they no longer need, and it needs to be declared surplus so that they can sell it at auction.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no. Commissioner Guffey? Anyone wish to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, please.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 11-21-14. Resolution declaring certain Williamson County-owned handguns surplus and authorizing the Sheriff's Office to exchange the handguns with a licensed and qualified law enforcement weapons dealer for new handguns. The motion by Commissioner Herbert, the second by Commissioner Sturgeon. Law Enforcement and Public Safety Committee was 5-4-0 against. Property Committee was 5-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please.
This is some handguns with the Sheriff's Department that they no longer use and are outdated, so we can declare them surplus so that they can be traded in toward the purchase of some new Glock handguns.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, please.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 11-21-15. Resolution authorizing the Williamson County, Tennessee to join with the state of Tennessee and other local governments in Tennessee state subdivision opioid abatement agreement and approve the related settlement arguments. Agreements, excuse me. The motion, Commissioner Smith, the second by Commissioner Tunnicliffe. The Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Public Health Committee was 3-4-0 against. Explanation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Back in 2017, this commission voted to enter into this lawsuit, if you will, along with the state of Tennessee and and other local governments. It involves manufacturers, distributors, and it involves the opioid crisis that we've all dealt with, from the hospital to the sheriff's department to the schools. You name it, it's affected many departments of the county. There has been a resolution on at least a portion of the suit. The negotiations have come to fruition. There is a process that we'll go through to determine how the money is distributed to the various municipalities from the state all the way down. I'll let Mr. Mosley go into more detail about that. This is to approve our acceptance of that process and allow us to participate in the receipt of the funds ultimately from this effort.
Are there any questions? Legal, I guess.
I'll be glad to answer any questions. Commissioner Smith's right. We filed after 2017, December of 2017, based on an abatement theory of nuisance and the harm that was done by the manufacturers and distributors of opioids. As you may have read in the press, the big three manufacturers, McKesson, Cardinal, and Amerisource Bergen, have agreed, and Johnson & Johnson have agreed to pay a combined $26 billion into a settlement fund. How much each state gets is dependent on the participation of the local governments. The more local governments that agree, the more a state will get. Tennessee is pretty much set in our allocation because we passed legislation in the spring that set how that allocation would go and bars the filing of new lawsuits. So in that regard, we're good. This sets it up, and basically the county will get 15% of the state. This county, the counties in general, will get 15% of the allocation to the state of Tennessee distributed directly to them for restitution of past harms. Another 24.5% will be allocated to counties through grants from the Opioid Abatement Council that will be set up by the state. And then the additional monies will be allocated by the Abatement Council for applications for grants for abatement funds and projects throughout the state. There was a concerted effort to avoid the way the tobacco settlement money was taken in, appropriated, and used, particularly at the state level, to refund rainy day fund and some things like that if you go back far enough and remember. So this sets out a process. We wanted to get 40% to the local governments. We got to 39.5 through the negotiations. And all in all, it overwhelmingly supported by the counties that are litigating these cases. And we need to get this approved before January 2nd to get into that allocation percentage that we want.
Commissioner Smith?
One thing further, Mr. Chairman, I want to give credit to Mr. Mosley for his efforts in negotiating with the state to ensure that we got the maximum amount possible. And he did a lot of hard work.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no. Anyone wish to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, please.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 11-21-16. Resolution amending the rules, regulation, and procedures of the Williamson County Board of Commissioners concerning Rule 7.1E, election procedures. The motion by Commissioner Morton, the second by Commissioner Nations. Rules Committee was 4-0 against as amended. Someone want to make the amendment? Well, we got to get, we've got the motion.
Yeah, so I'll explain the resolution. So we're required to make appointments at the next, of school board members at the next scheduled county commission meeting. In the event of abrupt resignations, it could put people in a little bit of a bind in terms of finding folks. So this rule expands to the best it can the time frame to where we are required to make that appointment within a 15-day period. So if the individual resigns within 15 days of a county commission meeting, we can hold that appointment to the next meeting. That best holds true with the rules, regulations, and state law that we're bound by.
Okay. Do you want to make the amendment?
The amendment was, and I'm trying to, at the bottom, towards the bottom of the resolution where it says you.
At the bottom of the resolution because they couldn't put it in the resolution.
We just need somebody to make.
Just the amendment is typed on the agenda, so, I mean, on the resolution, so if we just need someone to make the.
So a motion to make the necessary amendment to the language from shall to may, or, yeah.
Correct. Do we have a second to the amendment? All right. Commissioner Lawrence, the second. Is there any discussion on the amendment? The amendment is changing the wording on the very last line of the, now therefore be it resolved, the scheduled meeting may be defined as the next regularly scheduled meeting. That is the change. Are there any questions?
I'm not sure that's the correct amendment. I thought it was shall be filled instead of may be filled.
It says the very last line, so that's the very last line. In the last sentence. Not in the, it says in the last sentence, which.
Shall to may.
Right, but which one? I'm not
There's-
sure that's typed correctly.
Bobby
There's
can-
two shalls in the last sentence. They're wondering which one is going to change to may.
Lawyers.
Is it the last sentence or the?
There's a vacancy shall be filled at the following regular scheduled meeting, and the next to the last sentence, and the last sentence says the scheduled meeting shall be defined. So we're changing
It's the first shall. It's the first shall.
Okay. All right, so if you're reading the resolution, the Board of Education in effect within 15 days, calendar days prior to the vacancy be changed from may shall to may. So it's the next to the last sentence, not the last sentence. That is the amendment. Any questions? All right, any discussion on the amendment? Commissioner Williams? Hang on, let's get, right, let us get you, mic turned on.
It's in the fourth whereas is where the difference is.
Can you hear me now? Okay, there we go. I feel like I'm probably not the only one that's a little bit confused on this. So the current rule is that if there's a vacancy within 15 days of the next regularly scheduled meeting, right, there is the nomination has to be brought forward at the next scheduled meeting, correct? So 16 days prior to, right, if a vacancy occurs.
The current rule is that the vacancy for a school board position has to be filled at the next regular scheduled meeting. That could conflict with the requirements for publication and those such things. So we can define the next regular as being not within 15 days of a meeting in order to give us time for the agenda to go out, the publications and those things. That's all we're trying to do here. It doesn't change the private act. It really just defines the term for the next meeting so that we can meet the other statutory and rule requirements.
That's what I needed here. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
We're talking about the second to last sentence, not the last sentence. Is that correct?
Fourth whereas. Shall in the fourth
Now,
whereas.
Bobby, give us, because I think now they're being resolved, and they're thinking that should be in the fourth whereas, so.
No, it's now therefore be it resolved. That's the action language.
So it is the vacancy,
Oh, up here.
Read the entirety
You
of the
got it?
sentence.
okay,
Okay, the last sentence will read, "For the purpose of this rule in Chapter 323 of the Private Acts of 1972, the next regular scheduled meeting may be defined as the next regular scheduled meeting that is scheduled 15 calendar days or more from the effective date of the Board of Education vacancy."
so it is the,
It is the last sentence.
it is the last
It is the
sentence.
last sentence, it's
Right.
correct.
Is everybody confused now?
And just to clarify that, so if there was, just so everybody would know, and correct me if I'm wrong, this allows you to, if you are able to find an adequate school board replacement, you can place that appointment in the next scheduled meeting.
Yes.
But
This is permissive in nature,
Correct.
so it allows you to do it in order to meet those timeframes. If you can still do that and have it be at that meeting within 15 days, you're able to do that as a body. You're
Yeah.
just not required.
Correct.
As we are now.
correct. So if it all lines up, you can, there we go.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. We're voting on the amendment to change the last shall to may. If you're in favor of the amendment, press your yes button. Opposed, your no. Commissioner Williams? Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, please.
20 yes, 1 no.
We are back to the resolution now as amended. Any questions on the resolution as amended? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, please.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 11-21-17. Resolution amending the rules and regulations and procedures of the Williamson County Board of Commissioners concerning Rule 8.3 I-1 and 2, Human Resources Committee. The motion by Commissioner Morton, the second by Commissioner Webb. Rules Committee was 4-0 against. Explanation, please.
This just puts the HR committee in line with our other standing rotating, our standing paired district committees, just saying that we'll have 6. So just puts it in line with the other ones.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, please.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 11-21-18. Resolution amending the rules and regulation procedures of the Williamson County Board of Commissioners concerning Rule 7.2A3, election procedures. The motion by Commissioner Morton, the second by Commissioner Jones. Rules Committee was 5-0 against. Explanation, please.
This simplifies our procedures a little bit, just when we have multiple candidates for an office. Just simplifies our voting procedures as far as when we're going to drop out candidates if we don't have a majority vote for a single candidate and there are more than 2 candidates.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no. Anyone wish to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, please.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 11-21-19. Resolution amending the rules and regulations and procedures of the Williamson County Board of Commissioners concerning Rule 3.5, Citizens Communication. The motion by Commissioner Lawrence, the second by Commissioner Jones. Rules Committee was 4-0 against as amended. Explanation, please.
This was his.
Yeah, we had a few people who came to one of our meetings one night, and they got some mail that didn't fall in line with our Be Nice slogan exactly, and so it was very unsavory. So we checked with the legal, and there's no legal requirement that a citizen give us their address when they come here, and we don't want citizens not to come and speak because they're afraid of being doxxed. So this just basically eliminates the requirement to give your address. All you have to do is when you sign in, you do have to give your address, but you don't have to give it out publicly when you speak. So we do have a record of their address, but that will remain private, but they will give us their name and district. Is that right, Jeff? Do we have to name the district or
the city?
Or the city there? Okay. So we have to, they just give us their name and city, but not their address.
We have an amendment. Who's making the amendment?
Well, I guess I'll make it.
You have it.
Where is it?
Attached.
Hand
Not
it to him.
attached to mine.
The bottom one.
Okay. So the amendments are to amend this to state that a citizen will state their name and the city of residence prior to speaking. So that just clarifies what I just asked Jeff, so.
All right. Commissioner Lawrence, the motion, Commissioner Story, the second. To add the language amended to state the citizen shall state his name and city of residence prior to speaking. Are there any questions? Commissioner Webb.
Just to clarify, this was, Mr. Chair, this was my amendment. The point being, for the record, the verbal record would be the person speaking would give their name and city, but not their home address. And then for the record where they sign in, we ask for the home address because I think that's important if we want to do, the commissioners want to do the follow-up if they have a particular issue. And I base that on my experience in both city and county government. That's important. And I think if you read the amendment, the way I'm reading the amendment that we've proposed is that if you read that prior to speaking, the citizen will state their name and give the city of residence. And that's all we're asking them to. But during their sign-up, they will give their name, home address, and city. So we'll have a written record of their home address, but verbally, they're only giving their name and city of residence. So that's the amendment that we proposed here from the committee.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions?
It's already on the floor.
It's already, the amendment's already on the floor.
Commissioner Williams.
Commissioner Williams, let's get you.
Option on
Okay.
I appreciate the intent of this. I just, the question is so when they sign up with their address, what's the current procedure that, who actually verifies on that list that they are a resident of Williamson County, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we really want residents of Williamson County to speak and not outside individuals. So if they sign up for that, who's actually going through that list and ensuring that they're qualified?
They're making the attestation. We're not verifying it prior to their speaking.
Okay.
And we have had out-of-county speakers before that have signed up and spoken to an issue,
Right.
so.
Is that, in our rules, are they allowed to, or do we have to allow them to do that as an exception to our rule?
It would be an exception. I believe the rule reads that it's for Williamson County residents,
Right.
which business or residents is usually the way it's been interpreted.
Just, my only concern is, certainly you don't want anybody to get heckled or something nasty in the mail, but at the same time, I just want to ensure that the integrity of our residents in our county are showing up to speak to these issues. So I'm not necessarily understand why we need to make a change.
Okay. Diane is
Bottom of the page.
3.5 is what we are addressing. We are looking into the Williamson County part of that, so hang on. Yeah, we're having some technical issues. We should have rebooted, but we didn't stop, so we'll get with you.
You want to speak now?
He's looking.
She's ready.
Am I on? Yep. Okay. I agree that it's important that Williamson County residents are the ones that have priority and that they speak, but, and I don't think in the past it was ever an issue, but these days, people are afraid of being doxxed. Whether you get nasty mail or you get stalkers or whatever, I think it is important that people can protect their home address from being publicly announced and put on a YouTube video. But I do think it's important that we, like Commissioner Webb said, that we have it there so we can do follow-up if need be. And if there was a trend where we started having, people flooding in from other states just to speak at our meetings, then we'd have to address that at that time. So that's my opinion.
It does not require the county residents. This would require their address, though. I mean, you still have a sign-up sheet that requires the address. All this does is they don't have to verbalize it when they're speaking
Right.
for the camera.
So I'm for this amendment, yeah, and for the resolution.
Yeah, all right. Commissioner Ricky Jones. I'm sorry. Oh,
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Commissioner
So,
Osbrooks.
Thank you. So a couple questions. Mr. Mosley, I don't think I understood. The Williamson County resident-only part is not in the rules?
It is not in the rules.
Okay, so, thank you. Why I had actually asked to speak is regarding the phone number. So the proposed amendment, the last sentence, nothing herein shall require a citizen to verbally give their address or phone number prior to addressing the Board of Commissioners. Are we in the habit of giving a phone number and I've missed it for 7 years? Why do we have that addition?
Commissioner, the only reason that we have that in there is to ensure that that's not a requirement coming forward. The rule really never required us to provide, for them to provide their address. This rule, the way it's written, now says they do not have to do it, while we were requiring it not by rule, but by practice.
And I guess I understand that as to the address. I'm just not sure why we've added phone number in here. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
The phone number has been on the sheet that we go by. It's been the practice, and the original intent was for in case a commissioner wanted to follow up with a constituent, we've got a record of it. That's what originally was. And what we will still have this record when they sign up. That way, if someone wants to follow up, then we've got the information. What we are changing is that they are not required to state out loud in public what their address is or phone number is, only their city. Am I correct now? Have I got that? But our rules do not have a rule about them being a county resident or county business. So, yes, Commissioner Rick, yeah.
If their phone number or their residence or address becomes a part of the record, can the public get to that record anyway?
It will be
Okay.
online.
Well, it would be a public record,
Yeah.
so a request could be made for the sign-up sheet,
Right.
and the information would be included.
Okay, so if somebody wanted to get that information, they're able to get that information anyway? Yes, okay.
Mr. Chair, follow up to Commissioner Holbrook's question, the amendment does not include phone number. If you read that, during the citizen communication must not prior to the meeting give their name, home address, and city of residence. So that phone number was eliminated in the amendment. In the amendment.
It's in the last sentence, Commissioner Webb, of the amendment.
Right, nothing shall require the citizen to verbally give it their address or phone number. But the intent is that they're not going to verbally give their phone number or their street address.
Yeah.
Her question had to do with it being on, the phone number being on the written form.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
How is it that the public can still get that information?
You have a written document, a sign-up sheet.
Yeah.
That is created as pursuant to county commission business. That is a public record. People can make requests for public records.
But it's not online. They
I
don't
don't know
just
if it's posted
zoom in
online or
on,
not.
but they'd have to make a request
At a minimum.
of the office,
Yeah.
and the office would know who was getting the information at least.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Are any other questions? Are we ready to vote on the amendment? Okay, if you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no. Commissioner Williams? Anyone wish to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, please.
21 yes, 0 no.
The amendment passes. Now we're back to the resolution as amended. Are there any questions on the resolution as amended? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, please.
19 yes, 2 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 11-21-20, resolution to amending the rules, regulations, and procedures of the Williamson County Board of Commissioners concerning various rules which are no longer applicable or needed. Commissioner Morton, the motion. Commissioner Osbrooks, the second. Rules Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please.
Yes, this is just a periodic cleanup of our rules, some of the things that we no longer need. We no longer, for instance, want to read all of our minutes into the county commission meeting, so that's been taken out. Also allowing amendments that are filed after the date to be heard by this body, so there's a little cleanup there, and taking a little bit of power away from some of the subcommittee or the committee chairman as far as the ability to bring new business.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I assume.
I don't understand about the new business. Why would what was it before and what is it now?
Mr. Cook, would you want to, I can pull out my rule book myself and
It's the subcommittee chairman, right? As far as
Right.
that.
What it is that we have removed the requirements that all the resolutions go to the chairman, and the chairman then disperses it. He doesn't do that, so we've taken that part out. Now it's just the mayor's office will distribute it to the committees instead of it going through the mayor's office to the chairman to the committees. Because technically, your chairman is supposed to go through all the resolutions and then decide which committees they go to. The way it's written, we're taking that out.
Oh, so we're taking it out because that's not how we do it?
Correct.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Commissioner Landrum.
I didn't mean to, excuse me.
Okay.
I've said all I got to say.
That means Judy Herbert was supposed to speak.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no. Anyone wish to change your vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, please.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. I think that concludes the business. I've got a couple more announcements I want to make. Remember the Veterans Parade on 11/11 at 11 a.m. Oh, Mayor, are you trying to signal something? You got something?
Yeah.
While he's,
Go ahead.
no.
Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
I also wanted to thank the Sheriff's Department and the deputies for being here to provide our security tonight. I forgot to recognize them earlier, so I appreciate them being here. And go ahead.
And likewise, I forgot, I had a couple of questions. One for Jeff, if you would give us an update on the latest from a legal standpoint for the mask, and then I'm going to turn to, the vaccine, excuse me. And then I'm going to turn to Paul to do the update on the rescue money that's coming in.
Yeah, very quickly, there are, as you probably heard, the Biden administration has promulgated rules related to a vax mandate. There are actually two different mandates on vaccine mandates that have come down. One is come through OSHA as part of an emergency temporary standard is the technical wording on it, that everyone has to be fully vaccinated by January 4th if you work in an industry or a business that has over 100 employees. The Fifth Circuit has already issued a temporary restraining order against the enforcement of that mandate, and so that will go up through the courts. The Tennessee Attorney General has joined in a request for a stay of the mandate so they can file with the United States Supreme Court an emergency petition. They joined 7 or 8 other states in doing so. The Sixth Circuit has not, to my knowledge, ruled on that application yet. So right now, the mandate has been stayed. If it does not remain in that status, then Tennessee, because it is a state that has its own OSHA, Tennessee OSHA, TOSHA, they would have to make a determination as to whether they're going to implement the full federal or come up with their own program. So all of that to say, our office is obviously staying busy keeping up with that as it winds through the system. The regulations for the emergency temporary standard were 490 pages, and they were dropped last Thursday. They also, last Thursday, dropped 214 pages of mandates for hospitals and healthcare facilities that comes through the conditions of participation for the hospital. Those have not yet been enjoined by any court that we're aware of, and it's an entirely different legal standard or theory as to how they're promulgating that through the conditions of participation for Medicare and Medicaid. The basics being if you don't comply with it, they can withhold the federal funding for your Medicare or Medicaid patients that come through your facility. And while we have a very good patient ratio in terms of that, we still have a significant number of Medicare and Medicaid patients that come through, and it would be crippling financially for the hospital to not be in compliance with the conditions of participation. So we'll be watching that. By January, we should have a much clearer picture by the time y'all meet again as to whether or not there will be a federal mandate and whether or not the hospital will be under their mandate. But at this point, that's where it stands.
And Mr. Chairman, were you waving at me?
No, I was just had a question,
Trying
follow-up
to say
question.
goodbye.
Commissioner Lawrence?
So we have our own TOSHA department in Tennessee. Could they effectively nullify the federal law?
No, it has to be at least as stringent as the federal law. It could be more stringent, but it cannot be less, is my understanding.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, the other question I had were, how are we using the funds and where are we on the federal program called the rescue money? And I'll ask Paul to answer that.
Okay, I know what time it is, so this is going to be really quick. The ARPA funds, the American Recovery Act, is already passed. That passed in March, and so the counties in the United States have been given this money directly. Williamson County has already received half of a $46,308,000 grant. That money has to be used to reference pandemic-related items. What did you learn during the pandemic that didn't work, essentially, and then apply it toward that. And so it could be used for, what did your hospital miss out? Do you need to space people in jails? Do you need better air quality in your public buildings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And I'm doing this very quickly, and I'll be glad to sit down with you, or Nina, or Phoebe, or Jeff can do more specific questions. But the federal government, in this case, is also pushing broadband and water and sewer improvements. And so those are kind of the three main areas. I think you've heard this. You can't go back and recapture it. It has to be obligated by 12/31/24 and expensed by 12/31/26. And then we should get the second part of the money next summer at some point. So we're working that with lots of programs that will be submitted at some point to the state. They will review it to see if they think it will pass muster, because the state has to audit it. But before any money is expended, it'll have to come back through you, and we'll have to go through the budget process as if it were, it's a grant fund, so we have to go through the budget process. So some folks are concerned, as you might have heard tonight, that water and sewer groups could get that money directly from the county. They cannot. The Tennessee Department of Environment Conservation is very specific. They want the counties to work with the utility districts in the county, which would include the cities like City of Franklin, City of Brentwood, have their own water utilities, and bring them all to the table so we can all play together. And so that's something that will come up pretty quickly. But that is money. This is what they call ARPA, can be used as the local grant money to go to the state money, because remember, the state of Tennessee also got many millions, I think $2.1 billion or something like that. But it's a huge amount to be used on broadband and water and sewer primarily. And so the State Department of Economic Development is working on broadband, State Department of Conservation is working on the water sewer project. So we're working on that. If you didn't know that, I'm working for Phoebe and Nina to kind of watch this and gather the information. It's kind of a clearinghouse to pull all this together and try to make the pieces fit, and then have legal counsel to make sure we're within the law. The last thing I'll say about it is the law that passed Friday, the ELA, is not ARPA. You got to get these terms together. What passed Friday is a separate infrastructure package, has nothing to do with the pandemic. It is purely infrastructure. We'll be working on that later. What the ARPA thing is related to the pandemic, primarily from the federal government, water, sewer, broadband, and dealing with effects of the pandemic as going forward. Because it's late, I would suggest that, call Nina or Phoebe or Jeff or me if you've got specific questions as it goes through, and we'll answer them at that point. I think, will that work, Mr. Mayor? Perfect. Okay. Mr. Chair, motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned.
I had the floor.